As a pastor, I'm often asked ethical questions by people. Is it okay or not okay to do fill in the blank? Most of these ethical dilemmas that they are suffering from are not really difficult at all. They know the moral answer, and what they are actually looking for is permission, not guidance. Well, today I'm going to share what I believe is a real difficult moral dilemma. And if it is one that you are not aware of, I hope you'll take some time and think about it, because I could use some wisdom regarding this subject as well. So let's dive in and explore two Southern Baptist Convention ministry agencies supporting the construction of a mosque. Welcome, explorers, and this story is easy to pick a side fast, but I hope you will take some time and think these issues through because it is a multi-layered dilemma like an onion, and it might make you cry. In 2012, the Islamic Society of Baskin Ridge sought to build a mosque in their area. Baskin Ridge falls within the township of Bernards, which is in New Jersey, outside of New York City. Over the next several years, the Islamic Society began to jump through the city ordinance hoops and submitted their plans for their mosque. In December of 2015, the city voted down the plans for the mosque, citing multiple reasons from the stormwater drains to a lack of a buffer to access for emergency vehicles. Well, the Islamic Society of Baskin Ridge then filed suit, alleging vague city planning codes and unequal treatment toward a Muslim house of worship that is not required of other houses of worship. If you're interested in the outcome, the Islamic Society did eventually win this lawsuit and a second lawsuit as well. They were able to begin construction and even won a monetary settlement as well. But what I want to focus on is an amicus brief that was filed in court on behalf of the Islamic Society regarding their case to construct the mosque. Amicus curiae is Latin meaning friend of the court. Yes, lawyers and theologians have one thing in common. We like to sound smarter by saying things in Latin, but I just sound like I was born on the south side of the Roman Empire. Well, an amicus brief is filed by friends of the court that do not have any direct connection with the court case itself, but they want to formally share how they believe the case should be ruled by the judge. And an amicus brief was filed and signed by dozens of religious organizations in support of the religious freedom of the Islamic Society to build a mosque. Two of the signatories of this amicus brief were the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission and the International Mission Board. These two ministries are commonly known by their acronyms, the ERLC and the IMB. And both the ERLC and the IMB are ministry agencies of the Southern Baptist Convention. The Southern Baptist Convention is a large Protestant Christian denomination in the United States. And full disclosure, I pastor a church within the Southern Baptist Convention. And I wish I had time to break down the funky denominational structure of the Southern Baptists, but just to give you an oversimplified picture. The Southern Baptists are a collection of independent Baptist church that pool their resources into a big pot. Then that big pot of money funds ministry agencies such as the North American Mission Board, its 6 seminaries, and the aforementioned ERLC and IMB. At the big meeting called the Southern Baptist Convention, is there another religious organization named after their big meeting? I don't know. But that is so us. But at the convention, they elect leaders to oversee the various ministry agencies. At the time of the filing of this amicus brief, Russell Moore and David Platt were the leaders of the ERLC and the IMB, respectively. They felt that religious freedom is a sacred right and that it was worth fighting for, even if it was being used by another religion. So the ERLC and IMB joined the many other signatories of the amicus brief in support of the Islamic Society of Baskin Ridge. And an anthill from within the Southern Baptists was kicked. The reactions were varied and the reactions were loud. The question was asked, should the Southern Baptists support the religious freedom of Muslims? Now, some of you might answer that with a quick yes or a quick no. But let's add some nuance to this question. One thing to note within this ethical debate is that Southern Baptists widely hold to the doctrine known as the exclusivity of Jesus Christ, which means they believe the only viable path to God is through the Christian gospel of Jesus Christ. Southern Baptists are not of the belief that there are multiple paths to God, so they believe that Islam, along with every other religion, is a path that leads away from God. And with this sincere belief that there is only one path to God, should Southern Baptist agencies support the construction of a building actively leading people down a wrong path? Also, in contrast, the Southern Baptists have a historically strong belief in religious freedom. So much so, they don't even tell specific Southern Baptist churches what to believe. This can be viewed in the Baptist Faith and Message, which records common Baptist belief, but the Southern Baptists state this document is to offer general guidance, and it is not a binding statement of faith. Also, in the Baptist Faith and Message itself, it calls itself a consensus of opinion of some Baptist body, making it clear that you possess the religious freedom to determine your faith. Religious liberty is so important to Southern Baptists, they do not have a binding statement of faith saying, this is what we must believe. They just offer guidance into what is prudent to believe. Of course, in the very short Baptist Faith and Message, they have an entire section dedicated to religious freedom, the separation of church and state, and that religious bodies should have freedom to follow their conscience. So should Southern Baptist agencies fight for their historic and foundational belief in religious freedom, even when it is used by other faiths? It gets complicated. In this situation of the Islamic Society being blocked in building their mosque, two fundamental beliefs of the Southern Baptists collide: the exclusivity of Jesus Christ and religious freedom. And this event forced many Southern Baptists to wrestle with the importance of religious freedom and their sincere belief that there is only one path to God. Well, there were multiple reactions, so let's just examine a few and let's begin on both ends of the spectrum. Russell Moore, again the head of the ERLC at this time, stood true to his actions and his leadership of the ERLC. He continued to argue that it was right and good for the Southern Baptist ministry to fight for the religious liberty of all, not just those who agree with us. He defended this position at the 2016 convention. Moore stated, "I believe that no one goes to heaven except through explicit faith in Jesus Christ. That is why I don't think we ought to be harassing our Muslim neighbors or marginalizing our Muslim neighbors. We can either love our Muslim neighbors or speak to them, or we can scream at them. We cannot do both." End quote. And then we have Gerald Harris, who was editor of the Christian Index, a Baptist newspaper, who wrote an op-ed arguing a lot. He argues that Islam is more of a geopolitical movement than a religion, therefore Islam should not have religious freedoms. But taking out his odd political argument that Islam is not mainly a religion, he does write a quote to wrestle with, if you believe, again, in the exclusivity of Jesus Christ. Harris, regarding the other signatories of the amicus brief, wrote, "Furthermore, is it biblically correct to unite with other entities like the Center for Islam and Religious Freedom, Interfaith Coalition on Mosque, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Muslim Bar Association of New York, New Jersey Muslim Lawyer Association, Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund, Sikh Coalition, and Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of New Jersey? The Bible asks, what accord has Christ with Belial? Or what part has a believer with an unbeliever?" End quote. And that verse is 2 Corinthians 6:15. And Harris's answer is that Christians should not have accord with other faiths. So how do you balance the importance of religious liberty and a belief in only one path to God? Well, between these two extremes lies multiple other responses. Let me share just two of them. David Platt did not state it was wrong to support the mosque, but he did apologize for this distraction and for it being a divisive issue. Then he stated the IMB will use better protocols in the future to stay on their primary mission. Platt sort of stated supporting the liberty of the Islamic Society to build the mosque is right, but it isn't our job or our mission to say so. We had the right idea, but it was not right to share it because that's not our mission at the IMB. So Platt kind of argues religious freedom is good for all, but maybe a fight we shouldn't fight because we have more important missions. And finally, there is Dean Hahn, who went a step further than Platt, but not as far as Gerald Harris, who again argued that Islam should not have religious liberty from the state. Dean Hahn states, and I think he summarizes this ethical dilemma perfectly. Hahn stated, if we defend the rights of people to construct places of false worship, are we not helping them speed down the highway to hell? End quote. And he concludes for himself, I want no part in supporting a false religion, even if it is in the name of religious freedom. End quote. And I think you can flip this argument around and have an ethical dilemma for Islam or any other religion that believes they have the exclusive path to God. Should the Islamic Society of Basking Ridge fight for the right of a Christian church to be built when they believe a Christian church is a false house of worship? How do you reconcile religious freedom, which I think we can all agree is a right we want people to have, but how do you reconcile religious freedom and the fight for religious liberty for all and the sincere belief in only one path to God, whether that path is Christian, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, or whatever? I think this amicus brief, written in support of the Islamic Society of Basking Ridge, gave us a real doozy of an ethical bear to wrestle. Do you fight for the freedoms for people to use in a way you do not agree? Do you just stay quiet and say, that's not my fight? Do you actively fight against those with whom you have sincere religious differences? If I fight for their religious liberty, am I working against my faith? If I do not fight for their religious liberty, could I lose mine? I hope you will take a moment or two or three and think, if I believe in one path to God, how should I engage religious liberty for others? It's not only a tough question, it is an important one. And as always, my bibliography is in the description below. Be blessed.